Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah. Wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawm ad-din wa ba'd. Welcome to our second class covering Surah YaSin, inshallah ta'ala. We're just going to do a quick recap before we continue. First of all, Surah YaSin. What number surah is it in the Quran?
36.
The 36th surah of the Quran. Yeah, alhamdulillah. Okay, and last week I mentioned that we were going to, I looked in the tafsir Ibn Abbas, and for those who remember, then that tafsir tells you how many ayats, how many letters, and how many words. So Surah YaSin, this is something you have to remember, has 92 ayats, 729 letters, and 729 words, 729 words, and 3,000 letters. So what does that tell us? You know, this detailed stuff. What does it tell us? You know,
well, 92 ayat.
like, I mean, somebody took the time to count the verses, the verses, the letters, and the words in each surah. So what does that tell you?
That they were very meticulous.
Yeah, they were very meticulous, and they paid attention, and they were into the Quran, you know. So, yeah, I mean, this book has been, you know, the most studied book in the world, mashallah. So this is something that we're going to have to remember that will probably show up on the quiz. 92 ayats, 729 words, and 3,000 letters. So, Surah YaSin, the 36th surah of the Quran, is it Meccan or Medinan? It's Medina surah? No.
Mecca.
Yeah, it's Mecca. We said surahs is either Mecca or Medini, meaning if they're Mecca, that means they were what?
They were revealed in Mecca.
Right, and Medini means what?
They were revealed in Medina.
Okay. All right, now, we mentioned last week there are a number of surahs that were revealed in Mecca and a number in Medina. You know the answer to that?
No.
Okay. I'm going to get an answer here, but you're going to have to remember it. So the number of Mecca surahs is 86. And Medina surahs, or Medani, is 28. 86 and 28 is what? I still do the old math. 114 surahs. That's the total number of surahs in the Quran.
Okay.
All right. So 86 are Mecca and 28. So for those who are watching on YouTube, I gave you the answer, but you still going to need to know it on the quiz, which will not be open book. Which will not be open book. So hopefully you got that down, inshallah. Move on. All right, so Surah YaSin has a few virtues. One of them is the heart of the Quran. Another one, reciting it over the dead. And another one is it gives a person ease during their death. And another one that says it's equivalent to reciting the Quran 10 times. All right. And another hadith that I mentioned, I forgot to mention last week, and this is in the tafsir Ibn Kathir, excuse me. And it says that this is the importance of memorization. It's a hadith that's attributed to the Prophet ﷺ, where he said that he wished for the heart of every person of his ummah, for YaSin to be in the heart of every person of his ummah. So that's an indication of how important it is to memorize it. All right. So we also mentioned the topics of the surah. And the topics, we mentioned two terms. You remember them last week? We mentioned the Hashr and the Nashr. All right, Hashr means what? It means the gathering.
Oh, okay, the gathering. And
right.
The Nashr.
And the Nashr is meaning, it means something to be laid out, spread out.
Okay.
So this is all in respect to what?
The last day.
The last day, right, okay. because everyone is going to be gathered, every soul that came into existence, and everyone will be spread out, and everything will be laid out clear. So, one of the topics in this surah is the Hashr and Nashr. All right, so for those who are watching on YouTube, you need to remember these terms, Hashr and Nashr. You can get them back on the first video. I don't want to waste too much time in the review, so you need to know those two terms. All right. There's a story of a certain people that's going to be mentioned in the surah that we're going to get to. And it's also the proofs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's oneness. And it's an attribute that we covered last week. One of Allah's necessary attributes is called wahdaniyah. Wahdaniyah. What does wahdaniyah mean? It means absolute oneness. And this is one of the attributes that the scholars have concluded that these attributes are necessary for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning that these are among the attributes that make Allah who He is and what makes Him unique. So that means, for instance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's mawjood. The first thing that we believe about Allah is that He exists. You have to believe that Allah exists because people don't believe He exists, And also these attributes, and when we talk about them, that their absoluteness means that the opposite of them cannot be true, right? For instance, if we talk about the attribute of mawjood, right, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, then the opposite is impossible for Allah, meaning it's impossible for Him to not exist. Same thing for wahdaniyah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is absolutely one, and it's impossible for something to be, behind Him or equal or partner to Him, all right? So it's going to be talking about this wahdaniyah. So for those who are watching online on YouTube, you're going to have to know this attribute. And in another class that we're going to cover, you're going to have to memorize these attributes. So inshallah, we go back to that. And the objects of the surah is talking about Tawheed and the Akhirah. All right. And basically, and there's a very good theme, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. All right, so just real quick, that one of the reasons that why is this referred to the heart of the Quran? The Imam Ghazali, rahimahullah, he mentions that it's the heart of the Quran because it contains these topics of the Akhirah and about Qiyamah with detail and eloquence. And from the fundamentals of Iman, because Iman is something that has to settle in the heart, you have to believe in it, is the Aqidah of the belief in the Akhirah upon which the acceptance of our deeds is dependent, right? So this is what Imam Ghazali says. So this is why it's the heart of the Quran, because of the theme of the surah is about the akhirah and proper aqeedah and all this stuff, because this is what's necessary for us. Because, a person can have a lot of knowledge, they can have a lot of good deeds and what have you, but if they don't have good iman settled in their heart and the right belief, then it's all for nothing. So we ask Allah to increase us in good iman. All right, so that's basically what we cover as a review. All right. Okay, so if you have a Quran, you might want to have a Quran. You might want to have a Quran ready, inshallah ta'ala, as we go through this. So we're going to start now with the beginning. As you know, every surah starts with the basmalah. All right, and the basmalah is this here. This is called the basmalah. And the basmalah is to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All right, so, and we know from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that everything that we do, it should begin with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name, every good thing. Except the exceptions, it's like going to the bathroom and the like that, All right. Okay, so the first ayat, it starts with Bismillah, all right? And of course, in the Shafi'i school, the Basmalah, they consider, there's differences of opinion about the Basmalah. Are they actual ayats and stuff like that? So, scholars, even Sahabas have agreed or disagreed on them. But mostly agreed that, that is not, then you don't have to, they're not ayats like the regular ayats in the Quran. But in the Shafi'i school, we recite them before every surah and we recite them out loud. So when you hear somebody reciting Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it's just a different view that they take, and following their school is all legit, so, it's no big deal, So the first ayat in Surah YaSin is YaSin, all right, YaSin. Okay, so now, if you're familiar with the Quran, there are a number of surahs that start with letters, right? Does anybody know the term for this? All right. The term for this, and y'all seen in other surahs like this, this is known as huruf al-muqalla'at. Muqalla'at. Hold on. Huruf al-muqalla'at. All right. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. It's huruf al-mu'alliqat, excuse me. Mu'alliqat. Okay. And this is really translated as the disconnected letters or the disjointed letters, right? Disjointed letters. Okay, so here's a trivia or homework assignment. How many surahs begin with these letters? So you need to find that out for a homework assignment. So you read the Quran, for instance, in Surah Al-Baqarah, when those letters that says Alif, Lam, Mim, this is huruf mu'alliqat, all right? Mu'alliqat, excuse me. So these are the surahs that scholars have concluded that no one knows their meaning but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But going deeper into these surahs, some scholars have given them meanings. For instance, in Surah YaSin, they say it is, according to Imam Malik, that this is representing Allah's name, some of his attributes, right? And some say that it's from the Prophet's names, and some scholars said it is from the mutashabihat. All right? So you know what the mutashabihat is? Every ayah in the Quran has two things. They are muhkamat and mutashabihat. Mutashabihat. All right, so muhkamat basically means they are clear. Okay. All right, and mutashabihat means they're ambiguous. All right, so every ayah in the Quran will follow under these two things. The muhkamat, they have a clear meaning, or the mutashabihat, meaning that the meaning is not so clear. Not that you don't understand it, but it just can't give one particular meaning. So when those ayahs that are mutashabihat, you kind of just accept them as they are and don't delve too deep in the meaning, because it can get you jammed up. So each ayah is in that thing. So for instance, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Inna Allah ghafur rahim, that verily Allah is forgiving and merciful, right? That is what kind of ayat? Would that be muhkamat or mutashabihat? No, mutashabihat. It's not ambiguous. No, because you know what it means. Right. Muhkamat, Allah is telling you that He is forgiving and He is most merciful. Muhkamat. Muhkamat. All right, muhkamat. Right? All right. So, but if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He says, Allahu istiwa al-arsh, that Allah, that He is above the throne. Or Allah ascend, that's mutashabihat. And this is something that's very important, because you'll see people assigning a clear meaning to an ambiguous verse, and it's causing a lot of confusion. And we're going to discuss that in the Aqidah class. But the mutashabihat means that it is ambiguous, that it can't have just one clear meaning, and it can have a multitude of meanings. And you have the one that's most befitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that you should go for. But you want to be careful with the mutashabihat, especially when we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, so each ayat is going to be, so all of these surahs, YaSin and Ain, Sin, Qaf, Alif, Lam, Mim, all of those surahs that begin with these letters, these letters are the mutashabihat, because that is the safest meaning. That is the safest meaning. Of course, some scholars, they have, go into deeper meanings, but that's not really for us. So, and we want to stay away from that. So the first verse, you have Quran? All right, let me get my Quran real quick. I want you to read the ayahs out loud. Hold on, after I say it. So the first verse is YaSin, right? Okay, and the next one, it says, Wal Quran al Hakim. Okay, read that verse, and read the translation for that. Verse number 2.
By the wise Quran.
Okay. All right, so the first verse is YaSin. It is huruf al-mu'alliqat, from the disjointed letters, all right? And these letters are mutashabihat. So you need to know these terms. Huruf al-mu'alliqat, mutashabihat, all right? So for the first ayat, all right? And those surahs that contain all of those verses with these letters, all right? So I want you to find out what they are, inshallah. So verse number 2, it says, Wal Quran al Hakim. So what does that read?
By the wise Quran.
Oh, it says, by the Quran are full of wisdom. So this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swearing by the Quran. So we know that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by his creation or swearing by the Quran, there is something that he's going to bring that is of utmost importance. So here, some of the scholars have said that by the wise Quran or full of wisdom, what's the translation you have?
By the wise Quran.
It says Quran al-Hakim. Here they said Hakim means muhkam. Muhkam means solid. All right. So what does that mean when we're talking about the Quran is Hakim and it has this meaning muhkam, which means solid? What do you think that means?
It means that it is irreversible. It is rock solid.
Right. So it's solid. It's impenetrable. The Quran cannot be imitated. It can't be duplicated. Its eloquence, its style, how it's preserved. It is muhkam. It is solid. From beginning to end. Because we all know that the Quraysh, who the people who were poetic, they were poetry. They were challenged to produce the Quran, or produce something like it. But they couldn't mimic it in any way. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by the Quran when he says, Wal Quran al-Hakim. Here Hakim means muhkam, that it is solid. All right? So that's the meaning of the word in the second ayat. All right? So, and we know from the history of the Quran how it was revealed, preserved, its eloquence and style, and the way the words are put together. Because there during the time of the Prophet ﷺ that there were people who tried to make their own Quran. They tried to mimic the style, but they couldn't. And Allah says in Surah Al-Baqarah, if you try to produce 10 ayats, and then other places said one verse, and then he tells them, and then you can't do it. So the Quran is proof in of itself of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sending this to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All right, so that's a short ayah. That's all you need to know for that one. So it says YaSin wal Quran al Hakim, and by the Quran, the wise Quran, or the Quran full of wisdom. And then the next ayah says Innaka lamin al mursalin, and we put these other two ayahs together, 3 and 4. Innaka lamin al mursalin ala siratim mustaqim, that verily you are one of the messengers who was sent and on a straight path. And we put number 5 with it too. Number 5 is Litundira qawman ma undira Aba'uhum fahum ghafilun. So I translated that, my bad. So you read from 3 to 5. Translate it.
Indeed, you, Muhammad, are among the messengers on a straight path. This is a revelation of the exalted in might, the merciful.
Tanzilu, okay, no. Okay, so 3 to 5, okay. All right, so it says from ayat 3 to 5, you, Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, are truly one of the messengers sent on a straight path with a revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Almighty. So here, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he swears on the Quran. Then the third ayah, he says that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was sent. He was one of the messengers. All right. So he was a prophet and a messenger. So what do we believe about prophets and messengers?
One is endowed with revelation, and one brings a message.
Yeah. So what we believe is something we should know, that every messenger was a prophet. But every prophet wasn't a messenger. Okay, what does that mean?
That means that every prophet, every messenger.
So every Rusul, from all of the messengers, every Rasul, every messenger was sent with, guidance and a message to teach the people. So all of them were prophets. But then there were prophets who didn't have a message to go to people. For instance, Prophet Adam alayhi salam. He was a prophet, but he wasn't a messenger, right? And so who was the first prophet to become a messenger? Noah alayhi salam. Okay, boy, on top of his thing. This is Sensei in the audience. He on top of his thing. Alhamdulillah, doing this stuff. All right, so Noah was the first because he went to the people. He said, "Oh my people, worship Allah," and all of the prophets that were sent. And the Prophet ﷺ, as Allah is indicating to him, he said, "You are from the Mursaleen, the ones who were sent with a message." So this is also giving confidence to the Prophet ﷺ, because if it's a Meccan surah, what happened in Mecca?
Mecca was
during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. What happened with him?
He was driven out of Mecca.
He was driven out, but he lived there under attack, under scrutiny. They call him a madman. They call him a liar. They call him a soothsayer. There are reports that people try to attack him, try to kill him. So he was living in the midst of all this. People he was sent, Sallallahu to guide to the message, his family being boycotted and stuff. So this is like giving him comfort and solace that you are surely with a messenger. This is not, this is the real deal. It's not a drill. It's not a drill. So, and this is in answers and objections to the accusations of the Quraysh, because they used to say that he wasn't real, that, and then, when he met with them, and, when the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, he put Muhammad, the messenger of Allah, they said not to put it. And then, so they said, we believe you was a messenger of Allah, like, we wouldn't be going through all this. Right. So they opposed him in every instance that they could. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them that you, for surely, without a doubt, inna. When he used inna, it means it is tawqeed. It means for emphasis or certainty. All right. So he said, and you are from the messengers, and you are upon the straight path, meaning that you're on the path of those who came before you. Because the Prophet ﷺ, although he came with a new revelation, the message wasn't new.
Right.
The message wasn't new. What was the eternal message for all of the Anbiya, or all of the prophets?
Worship Allah and give paradise.
Worship Allah.
Worship Allah and receive paradise.
Don't make partners with him.
And don't
right.
make partners with him.
Yeah. And then they came with certain laws, and the Prophet ﷺ is the leader of all of the messengers. All right. So those from 3, number 4, straight path. Ayah 4. and it's a revelation from the Almighty. All right. So we have two ayats here that Allah is Al-Aziz, the Almighty, or the Mighty. Yeah, the Almighty. And Al-Rahim. Okay, and he is what? What is Al-Rahim? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Okay, when we talk about Al-Rahim, how is it different from Al-Rahman?
Allah is giving to all of His creation, but He's merciful to specific.
Okay, so when he says, when we say the Basmala, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gracious and He's extremely merciful. So that means for all of mankind. Al-Rahim means that it is specific mercy for the believers.
Right.
So he says in this ayah, he says, Tanzilul Azizul Rahim. He is the one, this is revelation from Al-Aziz, the one who is almighty and all capable of bringing people to, to task. People who reject and disobey. He's telling the Prophet ﷺ who sent this message, who sent this revelation. Al-Aziz, the Almighty, and Al-Rahim at the same time. All right. So this is ayahs 1 through 5. Okay. Everybody clear on that? All right. So you need to know from here in ayah 2, the word for the meaning of Al-Hakim is Muhkam. All right. Knowing that the Prophet ﷺ was a messenger, know this phrase. Every messenger was a prophet, but every prophet wasn't a messenger. All right. And the straight path, Sirat al-Mustaqim. All right. That's basically that. All right. So. All right. Ayat number 6 says, لِتُنْدِرَ قَوْمًا مَا أُنْدِرَ آبَاؤُهُمْ فَهُمْ غَافِلُونَ. Read ayat number 6.
That you may warn the people whose forefathers were not warned, so they are unaware.
Okay, so this is the purpose of the messengers. It says to warn the people whose forefathers were not warned, so they are unaware. All right. So this is saying the Arabs, that they were sent with a prophet because all of the people, when they're going to be raised up on the judgment day, they're going to be raised with their messengers. Mm-hmm. So now when the Prophet ﷺ, these people can't stand before Allah and say they didn't receive a message, because we know from the time of Isa alayhi salam or Jesus, there was a break in the prophethood, right? So there was some centuries, some say about 500-600 years before the Prophet ﷺ. So before that time, the Arabs never received any message. They used to worship idols and stuff like this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them that the Prophet ﷺ was sent to warn the people whose forefathers never received the message. So now they will have no excuse. And now people who come after the time of the Prophet ﷺ won't have an excuse, because the Prophet ﷺ was sent as to all of the people. He was sent with the final revelation to all of the people. All right. And then, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, this is in the Tafsir, it says, وَإِن مِّنْ أُمَّةٍ إِلَّا خَلَا فِيهَا نَذِيرٌ. And there was no nation, but there had passed within it a warning. So every nation will receive their warning. Every nation will receive a messenger to come to them and warn them about the clear signs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because remember, the theme of this surah is Hashr and Nashr. Hashr means the gathering of the people on the judgment day, and Nashr means where everything will be laid out. Mm-hmm. So it won't be no surprise. There will be no surprise about when we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us safety on that day. All right, and so then the next ayat, it says, لَقَدْ حَقَّ الْقَوْلُ عَلَىٰ أَكْثَرِهِمْ فَهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Read ayat number 7.
already the word has come into effect upon most of them, so they do not believe.
All right, so this is talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how he already decreed everything. Meaning that don't worry about the people who don't accept the message, because there are certain types of people who are going to accept the message. There are certain people that are going to oppose the message. There are some people that, they're not going to accept the message. So the prophets, all of the Anbiya, their duties is just to warn. As Allah says in the Quran, they was Bashira wa Nadira. He sent the Prophet as good news, as a bringer of good news, and as a warner. So everyone is going to get the warning. And so this is to show us that we can't push deen on people. The only thing you can do is show them an example, give them a good word. But if they don't accept, it's already been decreed that they're not going to accept. And then we have to know when we're giving da'wah and we're tabliqing people, what kind of people we deal with, because there are people that's going to be staunch opposition. There are some people that's going to be on the fence, and there are some people that's going to be open to the message. So we have to know when we're calling to Allah what kind of people we're dealing with, And we should also be very careful about calling people kafirs. We should be very careful, very reserved in calling the kafir, because we mentioned in another class, who knows the meaning of kafir? What does it mean?
Non-believer in anything.
It means a disbeliever, but the linguistic meaning means a farmer. And what does a farmer do? Huh? They harvest, but they bury things, they hide things. So a kafir means like to hide something, right? So, or to, to keep something buried. So a person, they bury any beliefs that they have. So a kafir means someone who outright rejects and opposes any kind of iman. So that's the kind of person that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, it don't matter if you warn them or don't warn them. Right. They won't believe, right? So that kind of person, you don't fight with them, you don't argue with them. People who mock your religion, who are not being objective, who are not open to reason, don't worry about it, because their decree has already been passed. They ain't and it's a sign for us that everybody's not going to be guided as much as we wish. Everybody's not going to be guided, And Allah says in another part of the Quran, he told the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Laysa alayka hudahum," not upon you is their guidance. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will guide whom he wills. So this is also, all of this is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his irada, which is another necessary attribute for Allah. Irada. Irada means divine will. All right. So we have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his irada, his divine will, and his qada. His qada mean his decree, divine decree. These are things that we should know. All right. And there's something we'll cover in another class, the difference between irada, his qadr, and